It's a Tuesday edition of Red Sox Now. FanArch is the sponsor. Subscribing is absolutely free. And we're getting towards, what's the number here? Guys and gals, the views are crazy in the offseason. I love, and we're almost to 2,200 subscribers. We have to do something for 3,000. Maybe I got to talk to the gang at FanArch. Maybe a giveaway, right? We got to do something fun for all of you because you're part of this. We're all part of this. Mike Antonellis at the Radio Mike is the handle. I am not doing much broadcasting in the offseason. I do the Woo Sox radio and TV. You know what I love when people get confused. They're like, you're that guy up there that announces the batters when they come to the plate? And I'm like, no, I'm calling the action. Oh, that. Wow. Yes, they even give me headphones and microphones. Let's do this before we get started. It's Veterans Day. Okay, so it's honoring veterans of all U.S. wars. And we have people who are probably we have a lot of older folks that watch this. So I know Veterans Day means a lot to all of you. So wanted to say that first. And a federal holiday for a lot of people not working today. So make sure if you are on social, make a nice comment about that, or someone you know, mention them in a post. All right, GM meetings going on in Vegas. That must be a lot of fun for the beat writers that are covering it. What I like about Craig Breslow, and I've said this before, I don't mind outlandish comments or bad. Everyone's going to make mistakes. What I like about Breslow is he's pretty straightforward and honest. He doesn't hide. And I think this is the player in him. And I think some of it is from maybe some of the GMs they played for. And I can speak this firsthand. I've been in the Red Sox system since '05. I've been around a lot of general managers. I know all of those general managers. Theo, Ben Cherington and I became very close because Ben was the farm director with Theo. So as a minor league broadcaster and media relations director, you work a lot with the farm directors. Like I know Ben Crockett and Brian Abraham really well because you have to have a relationship with them with roster moves. And there's things, and I could do a whole show on this, that the minor league broadcasters and media people have a relationship with the parent club's minor league people. So I got to know all of them. Mike Hazen was one. Mike was there as well. So I got to know all of these guys through the years. And there was a lot of playing it super close to the vest. And I'm telling, like, there were times when in the minor leagues where if we had to put a player on the injured list, we would not get reasons because, and this was everywhere, all GMs were doing this. They were so worried about scouts or other people seeing what their injury was, and then scouts would say, well, I can just go into a mass database and find the injury. So things were very close. It would seem like when a lot of the younger general managers started to come in, they were not giving out any information. Breslow is pretty wide open. And I think it's from, being a player. And he's gotten more experience at this. But, I mean, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to say, if you think about it, if Breslow got to these meetings and said that we're okay with what we have, it's crazy because they're talking to other GMs and agents. They already know. So you're not putting something out there that, you're not going to hide something like GM or agent's going to say, oh, I didn't know that they needed a first baseman or wanted a pitcher. But I do like how he's pretty outgoing about, because of our depth, this quote, we've built up over the last years, we feel pretty good about just overall starting pitching in numbers 3-ish through 10-ish. Now that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of GMs that would not give that. So we know. I mean, we all know. And I think that I like that. talking about how a power bat changes how you game plan. That's something I had mentioned too. When Anthony is a game planning batter, where teams have to game, and same as Bregman, where teams, they can wreck a game. Guerrero, the Dodgers have a bunch of them, regardless of what kind of slump that Juan Soto's in. He's a game wrecker, that you have to game plan around. And in talking about, we need to do that. And same with his stance on shortstop. And I still do. I will not. Trevor Story is a shortstop, and he admitted that for 26. He's not a second baseman. I still don't get why I see so many people saying to move Meyer over when Meyer had, they've talked about. Breslow said he needs to get stronger because he's had problems handling the grinds, and he is way younger. So, and he did not hit great, and part of that is being injured. But to concede that position to him, unproven, been hurt almost every year. He's been hurt every year he's played. Is just it's a crazy move. And watching, and this is what I go on, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but it's just, this is how I am. And I just, and Breslow and the Red Sox and Cora, they don't do this as well. I watched at least 140-something games, and there are plays that Story makes that Meyer can't. And I've talked to our coaches, and he is a special, gifted shortstop. And it's a position where you can't just start saying, well, let's see what Meyer can. No, not when you're trying to win World Series. And listen, the errors, no, there's no doubt. And Breslow brought this up. I'm aware of the errors. I'm aware of some of the defensive metrics indicate, which obviously they don't care about. I think he brought a stabilizing presence to the infield. I think some of his errors were clustered toward the end. They were. In a very short time, he had issues throwing. Part of that was the grind, and he hadn't played a full season. You have to factor these things in. He hasn't played a full season in a really long time. I think he's going into the offseason with no doubts about his health, with no doubts about his ability to perform at a really high level. I think we're going to see even more production out of next year. When Trevor was playing short, we felt like balls that were put in play to short were going to get converted into outs, and that's what you need. He and I have a great relationship, and the communication is very, very clear. The commitment we have to each other is to be honest with one another. So, I mean, also, like, you can't just look at numbers all the time. Like, there's so many factors, and I think the way it ended for him, it's going to make him even better next year. I just don't think that's something we should be worried about. And then I've seen some yesterday. Lou Maloney, this was great. He was getting into it, and I helped. I was replying because I was for this move that the Diamondbacks want out of Ketel Marte. Now, if you could somehow swing that, and people are really picking it. He's 32. So what? Who cares how old he is? He is, for second base, switch hitter with that kind of power, sign me up. $70 million is what the Diamondbacks want to get out of. Make them pay some of that. I'm taking him in a heartbeat. 4 years at $70 million, that's a bargain. If he was on the open market right now, with that kind of production, he'd probably get 5 or 6 years. 25 easily. He's an all-star player. So if you were, and who knows if that would work out, because the Diamondbacks they probably want a lot too, and we know how these teams do it. They throw out these little things to see if anyone will bite. But Breslow, mentioning a home run guy. So will that be Alonso? Will that be Kyle Schwarber? Would they trade for Fernando Tatis? Because now that's been in the rumor mill. And the Padres are engaging. Would that be someone? If Duran had to go, and I don't know if people realize how old he is. He's 26, by the way. He's younger than Duran. Now, this is where things get situational. Like I've said before, I am not opposed to keeping Duran. I'm not opposed to trading anybody if it makes your club better. Does that not make your club better? 26-year-old who's been an all-star and a gold glove. Why would the Padres want to do that? Because they must be looking for arms, right? You would think. So would they do that? So this offseason to me is so fascinating because we had a lot of you had left comments about this last week that there could be someone we haven't been talking about yet instead of the same olds like the Schwarbers and the Alonsos. So we gravitate to those guys because they're free agents. You know, I don't think there's any scenario where you could get Tatis and Marte, but if those four were free agents, I would put Tatis and Marte ahead of Schwarber and Alonso just because of the tools. I mean, you're talking about, you know, Marte and Tatis, two really high-level all-star caliber, and so is Alonso and Schwarber. I get all that, but I guess I would look at it side by side. Would I take Tatis over Schwarber? Probably, because he's a gold glover, and he's 26. Would I take Marte over Alonso? Yes, because of position priority. And then if you were to sign Bregman, even so, say you did that. Say you I don't want to say punted first base, but say you did stick with Casas. And you Casas, Marte, Bregman, and Story. That's pretty damn good. So it's I love the avenues of there is kind of unknown, but what I do like is that I like that my my president of baseball operations has made it clear what they want. And I don't think a lot of GMs in the past here have done that. Playing it way too close to the vest. I love it. They want a number 2. So if you weigh the priority, I know we do this. It didn't take long for the playoffs. This happens every year. It happens in the NFL. Everyone was talking about starting pitch. Yeah, you know, we need it. Look what the Yankees did. They brought up that kid, and he shut us down. And then look at what Toronto did. Yasevich, who began in low A ball. And then they brought in all these arms, and they got to the World Series. And look at the Dodgers. And then, like, 8 days later, we go right to the hitters. If you are trying to get a Joe Ryan, a Gore, a Peralta, a Sandy Alcantara, those are going to all cost you capital. So in doing that, I don't know how odds are that those guys, regardless of what you think about them, you can give me all the baseball savant stuff on why these guys are not good, which people will. They hold the cards there. That's where you don't have the leverage. You've already said you need a number 2. You're still going to have to give up a lot. Because Alcantara has said he wants to stay with Miami, and they don't need it. They have control of him. All those teams they don't have to trade with you either. Joe Ryan, we'll trade with someone else if you don't give us. I mean, there's going to be tons of teams that are going to want an upper rotation guy. So odds are, just common sense, that to me is priority. So if you have to use a lot of capital to get one of them, and then you can't use it to get probably like a Marte or a Tatis, then the free agent road makes sense, right? Alonso or Schwarber. That's where, and there's others, Naylor, Suarez, I mean, the Japanese player. That's why this year for a lot, I mean, let's just say for everybody in Major League Baseball, including the teams that are close to winning, there are a lot of great paths where you can get better. like the free agent class, the trade rumor class, both position players and starting pitching, is unbelievably intriguing and fruitful this year. You saw what Crochet cost you when he was still an unknown. So we saw what, and I know it was at the deadline, but we saw what the Padres had to give up to get a reliever, Mason Miller, who had control. I get it, but again, this is where you don't hold the keys and you've already kind of told people what you want. So the trade, now to flip that on its head, and we don't know how they evaluate guys. Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, who I think Valdez could be just as good, if not better, than trading. Same with Ranger Suarez. You have Shota, you have Michael King, you have Brandon Woodruff. So if you, through your evaluations, Dylan Cease is a top of the rotation stuff-wise. It's just he gets a little, injuries, he can get a little out of sorts. But you talk about, when we talk about in order of rotation, what people get caught up more is in statistics. I don't. It's stuff. That's what everybody in baseball grades where you are rotation wise. If you have, like, Lucas Giolito doesn't have 5+ pitches, so he can't be top of the rotation. To be a top of the rotation, you need to have 3 to 4+ pitches. Or, you're throwing 102. You know what I mean. But it's really, the order really is based on repertoire. And just the overall stuff, not numbers. They're not looking up numbers and saying, oh, it's they look at their repertoire. They like guys that are in the zone with the fastball. And Valdez is a 5-pitch guy. So you could do it the other way. If you don't feel that the free agents wow you, position player-wise. And I can be sold on that. I'm not a big Eugenio Suarez guy. I wouldn't be heartbroken if they decided that they like Tatis more than Alonso when he's much younger, and they went Framber Valdez and then traded. And then again, all these teams are different with what they like, with what they want. So you can go both ways on that. And the other thing with the free agents, though, is they all got qualifying offers. So any of those guys that I just talked about, Cease, Valdez, Suarez, King, Shota, and Woodruff, cost you draft capital, so it's fine. You're gonna have to pay a tax. But I like that there's a path this year, and there's the third path with the Japanese players. So it's just super intriguing. I love it. All right, let's get to your comments from Monday. I got them here, I promise. We're going to start with Brian Smith. He wanted to know about the Rule 5. Always hear about it. I love it. I love it as a minor league guy because I see guys that get taken. I'm like, oh, wow, that was a good one. I think Tyler Uberstein is going to be big league Rule 5 because I don't think he's going to get protected, and I think he's going to end up like a Whitlock or a Slayton. Slayton basically throws 2 pitches. That's it. Uberstein, we saw as a starter, 5th, 6th inning, all of a sudden he's got 97 in his back pocket, and we're like, whoa, where did that come from? I think he's a big league arm that if he's not held on to, which I don't think it'll be tough because they've got so many guys. And people will be mad, but you can't. It's going to happen. You can't keep them all. But he will be definitely taken from someone. So there's player eligibility. You have to be on the 40-man. You can't take someone off the 40-man. So you have to make sure that that's crunched. Generally, 5 seasons for players signed at 18 and 4 seasons players signed at 19 or older. So if they're not on the 40-man, they're not eligible either if they haven't played so many years. Draft is reverse of previous season. A team that selects a player must pay a fee to the player's former. And in the big league phase, they have a minor league phase. In the big league phase, you have to put that guy on the 26-man roster for the entire season. And there's rules now around it, because what teams were doing before is they would take someone in the Rule 5 and they would get hurt. Anthony Santander was one who magically got hurt when Baltimore Rule 5'd him from Cleveland, and he was on the injured list right away in spring training, and he rehabbed. I remember this. He was rehabbing in Bowie, and their radio guy said, yeah, he's not hurt. They just beat the system. That's what teams were doing. I saw it for years. Is it crappy? Yes. And, of course, when you do stuff like that, they had to change the rules. If the team wants to send the player to the minors, they must place him on waivers. If he clears and is not claimed by another team, he must be offered back for a fee of $50,000, or the team can say, no, we don't want him. Good stuff, Brian. Thank you for the comment and all of your comments. We'll get to two more. Harlana Braham, 7772. Glad Veritek is back with the Sox. Hope he's the batting instructor. He's a disciple of Charlie Lau. Yeah, so was Wade Boggs. Remember Walt Rainiac, too? Well, Walt was more Wade. He could really help Sox hitters get better. Maybe he'll be the manager one day. Subscribe and I hit the like button. Awesome. Yeah, I think he does. There's a lot of players that will, ask for coaches, different coaches. At Hank Chapman, 8879. You seriously think Duran, Rafaela, Tolley, and Early isn't enough for a one-year rental of Skubal? The Tigers would be all over that, or even half of that. And this idea of trading to rivals is made up by media and fans. I don't think so. What you see tons of players not traded to in their division. If the Tigers think the deal is favorable to them, they'd view it as hurting their rivals. Why would they not want to take advantage of them? How many times have the Yankees and Red Sox made trades over the year? This is a made-up issue. No, it's not. And your last point about the Yankees and Red Sox is foolish. When has a number 2 pitcher in baseball been traded to the Red Sox or Yankees? That's never happened. I'll tell you why it's not. And I don't care about the one-year rental. You're still looking at this. All of you are looking at the Skubal deal through Red Sox-colored glasses. You have to put yourself in a Tigers position. Tiger fan. You have won 2 years in a row. You were one of the best clubs in baseball last year at one point. You go nowhere without him. The fans don't care about what it cost. They're not happy. The Illiches are loaded. You want to talk about cheap. You want to get on John Henry. They own Little Caesars. They own, the Red Wings? They own the building that the Red Wings play in. They own the Tigers. They own casinos. They have one of the best pitchers in the game. You have been winning. That's my point. I think you're missing my point, too. From a Tigers perspective, from a business move, it is a horrific business move to trade Skubal to a team with Crochet. You're going to have the top 2 pitchers in Cy Young voting on the Red Sox, and you're sitting there. What are you thinking as a Tiger? Well, we got Duran, we got prospects. I could make a case as a Tiger fan. Duran's production went down. He's older. Rafaela can't hit. We don't know anything about Tolley and Early. You would be significantly worse next year. You just were in the playoffs. You just won a first round, and you're going to trade your best arm because you don't want to pay him? It's bad business. I don't care how old he is. I don't care what he wants. You have to figure that out. You have to step it up. Stop playing in the minor league, Central Division. That deal is not favorable. Just like the deal the White Sox made was not favorable. I don't care who you gave up. You got an elite arm. 0.0000001% of arms on the planet are Crochet, Skubal, and Skeens. You never, ever win that deal. I don't care what anyone wants to tell me. That is a Red Sox perspective. And is not made up by the media and fans. Teams do not. When has the Yankees ever gotten a number 2 starter from the Tigers? Number 1 starter. I don't remember any of that. Garrett Cole was with the Pirates. That wasn't a trade though. It's a horrible move. It's not a small market. And you have owners that they might have more money than John Henry. I don't know. I mean, they own a freaking arena. They own a hockey team. They own a baseball team. They own Little Caesars. They own casinos. My friend works for the Villages. One of my friends is the broadcaster from the Tigers. And I've run this by him, and I talked about this last week. Think about it as a kid. Fans, diehard, like you guys are. Would you be happy if the Sox traded Garrett Crochet after these 2 years? Like for prospects? Even, I mean, you're getting big league. No. And yes, a 1-year rental, if the Red Sox got Skubal and got rid of 6 players, they could get rid of Duran, Rafael, Tolley, Early, Dobbins, and I'll throw the password in there. They would still be American League favorites as soon as that would sign. You'd be giving the American League away. So in terms of business, it is horrible. And it won't happen. Trust me on this. It's not happening. The Red Sox are not getting him. The Yankees are not getting him. He'll go to the Dodgers or Padres. That will be, or the Giants. Or they'll pony up. So I guess maybe that's my, overall point is the Tigers need to stop nickel and diming too. I mean, the last time I checked, Detroit's not a South Dakota. But I do not agree with. That's fine. I mean, we can disagree with that all you want, but go talk to a Tigers fan. Find a Tigers fan and ask them what they would think of that. Ask them what they think of the Red Sox and Yankees, because they don't like this fan base. They don't like anything to do with the Red Sox and Yankees, which they shouldn't. Most fan bases don't in the American League because, the Red Sox, Yankees are always on national TV. There's a lot of bitterness around. I've lived in other parts of the country. Red Sox, the people who are not Red Sox fans, it's vicious. And that's going to end our show for Tuesday. We'll be back at it on Wednesday. Subscribe to the channel at Red Sox Now. It's presented by Fan Arch. And as always, go Sox.